And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lightheart versus Prentice. Step forward, please.
Roofing salesman Mark Lightheart is suing his ex-girlfriend, apartment manager Rhonda Prentice, for a loan to regain custody of her youngest daughter. Mark says Rhonda lost custody when she went into rehab.
Mr. Lightheart, you and the defendant, according to what I read, were involved in a relationship. You loaned her a substantial amount of money in order for her to retain the services of an attorney that she needed for a custody case. Custody case involving
my 6-year-old daughter.
And you are no longer together. You claim this was clearly a loan. She was supposed to pay you back. The defendant says that there was no way this was a loan. This was a gift because you knew how important it was for you to have custody of your daughter. Is that right?
Right.
And the child was with your former husband? Or were you not married to the father of that child?
Right. He's had temporary custody since last April. So I'm...
How did he obtain temporary custody?
I went to Fairview Riverside Chemical Dependency for alcohol.
And how long were you in rehab?
3 weeks.
Okay. Tell me how it came about that you asked him to give you this money.
Shortly after I got out of the hospital last year, April 4th, that's when I had found out that my ex-husband took temporary custody. Okay. So the minute I walked out of treatment, I was running for an attorney.
And you found one?
Correct.
And then what did you do?
That's when I talked to him and had asked him if he'd be willing to help, and he said he'd do basically, you know, anything. It was my daughter, and we're in a relationship. And
there was never any discussion about repayment? He said, I'll do anything that's necessary to help you?
Basically, yeah.
Well, not basically.
Yes.
Is that what he said to you? I'll do anything
to
help you?
Right.
Okay, and how long had you been involved in a relationship with him, Miss Prentice?
The fall before, so August or September.
And you had lived together?
I had an apartment, and then he was going to move in. And he did, but then he moved out.
How long did you live together?
A couple weeks, I think he only stayed there.
And that was after he gave you the money?
Correct.
Okay, but you had dated and were in a relationship for a substantial period of time before you went into rehab?
Yes.
Did he also have a drinking problem?
No.
You were aware of her drinking problem, sir?
I was.
And you were together for how many months prior to her going into rehab?
Probably about 9 months.
Did she call you on the telephone, or were you together when she discussed this money with you?
Both. She had asked me and begged me and for about a week and said that she would pay me back, and I had finally said, you know, yeah, I would borrow her the money.
When she got out of rehab, where was she working?
During the rehab, I believe she had got terminated from her job.
So she wasn't working?
Right.
So what did you expect her to pay you back immediately with?
If it was not to go to a jury trial, the money that I borrowed her was not going to be used for attorney fees, so she was going to pay me back the $7,000.
So she was just going to give it back to you?
Correct.
And if it did go to a jury trial, where did you expect her to get the money from to pay you back?
She was expecting to get her child back, and she would have gotten child support in the amount of $1,300. And that $1,300 she was going to pay me per month.
And what was she going to support her child on?
That I don't know.
Okay. So how much money did you give her?
I borrowed her $7,000.
First of all, the word is loaned.
Loaned.
You loaned her, according to you, and she borrowed.
Yep.
She says it was a gift. I don't see how you could loan her money if she had no way of repaying you. Tell me about that, sir.
It was under my understanding that I was going to get paid back the loan amount within, you know, whatever, 4 months total time, if not immediately.
I don't buy it. Sir, I could imagine that if you're in a relationship with somebody and she says, I'm desperate and I need money, and you know she has absolutely no way of paying you back, the likelihood of the case going to trial is great, then she certainly wouldn't have money to pay you back because the only money she would get would be child support. She wasn't working. So there was really no way that you could even expect to be paid back. You probably expected to have a long-term relationship with her. Is that a fair statement?
At that time, no, because we weren't really going out. We were still talking, but we weren't in a relationship at the time I borrowed her the money.
You were in a relationship, sir, because you moved into her home. I don't care if it was for 2 weeks. What do you call that? Your house was being painted? Anything else you want to tell me?
Well, during our relationship, she had gotten a settlement from her ex-husband, and she had bought a car cash with this money. When I loaned her the money, she agreed that if she was not able to pay me back the money, she would take out a loan against the car to at least help me recoup some of the cost.
Is that right?
We had talked about...
Just a minute. Did you agree to take out a loan against your car?
Well, months later, after when he was telling me he was down and out...
What kind of car is it?
Ford Taurus, 98.
It's an older car. How much did you expect for her to get against that car?
We agreed that she would take out a loan against the car.
Go ahead.
I'd called my banker. He's a personal friend. And the loan value on the car was $3,500.
So that the only money that you really anticipated getting back was money that you could get as a result of taking a loan out against her car.
Had I known I wasn't getting any money back, I would have never loaned her any money.
That's too bad. I'm smarter than you are. You're not going to get over on me. You understand?
Correct.
Good. I will prepare an order that she is directed to take out the loan against her car through your friend. Do you understand the order? Good. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out. This is case number 93 on the calendar in the matter of Wilson versus Dixon. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Young lady, have a seat, please.
Miss Wilson, there was a time that you provided daycare for the defendant's 3 children. According to your complaint, as a result of some scandalous and slanderous remarks that the defendant made, you lost income.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
And you want her to compensate you for that.
Yes, ma'am.
This is your oldest daughter?
Yes.
And you have 2 little
Yes.
ones, toddlers.
Yes.
How many days a week did you take care of?
Sunday through Thursday.
From what time to what time?
From 6:30 to 3 o'clock.
You were going to work, I assume.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have children of your own?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are they?
11 and 4.
When did the trouble begin?
March 22nd.
And tell me what happened.
Chantel had told me after
That's Chantel?
Yes. After I picked him up from the babysitter, from her house, she had told me that Rhoda had left him in the car alone while she went inside 2 stores. And she had the keys in the car. She had the car running also. She didn't wake up till 10 in the morning. I dropped them off at 6:30. They didn't eat breakfast. As soon as they woke up, she said, Rhoda said, come on, it's time to go. She didn't have my 1-year-old, she was 1 year, she was 1 then. She didn't have her in a car seat. She had my son, it wasn't in a car seat. He was in a, like a carrier, and she didn't have him strapped in. And Tiara, my youngest daughter, was sitting on Chantel's lap in the car. And she also didn't have my permission to take them from her house.
To take them off the premises?
Mm-hmm.
Had she ever taken them off the premises before?
Not that I know of, no.
Do you remember coming home and telling your mom about this car ride that you took?
Yes.
You want you to come up here so we can talk.
Yeah.
Tell me your name again.
Chantel.
And you're 9?
Yes.
What grade are you in school?
4th. I'm going to 4th.
You do well in school?
Yes.
Good. Tell me what you told her.
I told her that we woke up until 10 and we didn't...
What do you mean you woke up until 10?
I mean, Miss Rhoda woke up until 10 and
Well, she didn't get up until 10. Who took care of you from 6:30 to 10?
nobody. She just kept waking up and then checking on us.
Where were the babies?
Sleep, and somewhere I wake up, my sister was woke.
So you told your mom about this business in the car. Were you strapped in a car in your seatbelt?
No.
And what about your brother?
No.
And your little sister?
No, she was sitting on my lap.
How old is your little sister?
1. Now she's 2.
But at that time she was 1 year old.
Yes.
Now when you say she was sitting on your lap, were you sitting in the front of the car or in the back of the car?
Back.
And was she sitting on your lap when the car was moving?
Yes.
Have a seat over there with your mom. Okay. So after your daughter told you about this, what did you do?
I was mad, and the next day I went over there to get my son's pacifier from Rhoda.
And what happened?
She asked me how come I hadn't brought them, and I told her why, and we were arguing.
So the next day you didn't bring your children back?
No.
Did you file any report?
With the police and with the Gary County Health Department.
And when did you do that?
The health department, I did that the next day. The police, I think I did that about, I'd say 5 to 7 days after I had filed it with the health department.
Can you tell me why you, after you notified the health department, which I assume licenses you, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Why you notified the police?
Because they didn't contact me back right away. I wanted to make sure that something would be done about it.
How many other children were in your care at the time you were taking care of Miss Dixon's children?
14.
14 children?
Yes, I did 18 hours straight, 7 days a week.
14 children?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're saying the same time. I'm sorry. It was my 4-year-old, my 11-year-old, the 13-year-old, and his brother David, which is 6 years old.
And her 3 children?
And her 3 children.
It's a lot of children to take care of. Okay, now is it that complaint to the health department and to the police department that you are complaining of today?
No, my complaint is, Your Honor, is the slander. She made a police report saying that I left her kids in the car by themselves and went shopping in Walmart. That's the complaint, Your Honor.
Yes.
That's the slander, and that's the slander that she spread it all over Junction City, stating that I left her kids in the car and went shopping in Walmart, and how she got my contract taken away from the state. She was bragging about that.
Well, let's go back a second, Miss Wilson. You did, in fact, go out to run a couple of quick errands with the children. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you supposed to take the children off premises in a car when you're taking care of them?
With the signed permission slip, Your Honor.
Do you have a signed permission slip from her?
No, ma'am.
So that you had no right to take them off the premises?
Verbally, she told me, she asked me if it was okay for her to work 2 hours overtime. The 2 hours overtime that I was working for her, Your Honor, was my off time. She called and asked if it was okay for her to work 2 hours overtime. I said, yeah. I said, but I have to run a couple of errands. That's what I told her. But I said, yeah, you go ahead and work 2 hours overtime.
Did you have a signed permission slip from her to take her children off the premises?
No, ma'am.
The answer is no.
No, ma'am.
So you're not allowed to take her children off the premises?
Verbally. Well, no, ma'am. No, ma'am.
You took other children in the car with you, too, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How many children other than the defendant's children were in the car?
It was Xavier, the 13-year-old, David, my 4-year-old, and her 3.
So you had 5 children in the car?
Yes, ma'am.
How many car seats did you have in the car?
I had 1 car seat.
And who was using that car seat?
The baby.
Which baby?
Romel, the 12-month-old, was in the car seat.
That's her baby?
Yes, ma'am.
And how old is the next oldest child?
The next oldest was her child, I guess she 18 months.
Was that child in a car seat?
No, ma'am.
You know that's against the law.
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I went in and out of those places, Your
Doesn't
Honor.
make any difference. You left 5 children in the car for a moment.
And later today,
Madam, why did you sign the back of the check?
Let me see, because I don't know.
It's a check made out to cash. You cashed the check.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Daycare provider Rhoda Wilson says client Adrian Dixon damaged her reputation with slander. Adrian says Rhoda neglected her children.
Where was the first stop you made?
The first stop I made was at the cleaners, Your Honor.
You left 5 children in the car and ran into the cleaners.
It was driving cleaners, Your Honor. My car was right there by the door.
You left the children in the car for a moment.
With the 13-year-old.
For a moment.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, where was the second place that you went?
The Quick Sack.
What is that?
That's a convenience store.
And what did you have to buy there?
The bread and the vanilla wafers for my PM snack.
And did you take all 5 children into that store with you?
No, ma'am.
So, Miss Wilson, you left the 5 children in the car alone. I don't have to go any further with you. Were you issued any sort of citation?
All they got me for was improper seat belting.
Did you take a plea? Or did you go to trial?
I went to trial, Your Honor.
Oh, you did. And you were found guilty?
Of not properly seat belting.
So you were found guilty?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, if you were found guilty, Miss Wilson, you were found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, which means that you can't now bring this lawsuit against her for complaining about things, some of which you were found guilty of. And if your complaint, Miss Wilson, is that the defendant told people about it She could do that.
Your Honor, I didn't leave her kids in the car by themselves and was shopping at no Walmart.
So you didn't go to Walmart, so you went to the cleaners and you went to get your vanilla wafers. What difference does it make?
I went in and out of those places, Your
Doesn't
Honor.
make any difference. Do you know how long it takes a child, a 4-year-old, to put a car in gear, even if there are no keys in the car? We haven't even gotten to the fact whether the keys were in or out of the car. But let's say you were smart enough to take the keys with you, which I'm not so sure about. And one of the children, one of the toddlers, got there and moved the gear shift so that the car was placed in drive and started to roll with 5 children in the car.
Your Honor, it was just that I volunteered to work 2 hours overtime for her, and it was my off hours. I was planning. I didn't need the jeans. I didn't need the jeans, Your Honor. I just needed the bread and the vanilla wafers, and I could have done that if I wouldn't have worked overtime.
Just a second. Then you say I can't work overtime. You don't take the job to work overtime, Miss Wilson, and then do the wrong thing. Yes. You didn't need the jeans, and you do without the vanilla wafers if you agreed to work 2 hours overtime. You were going to get paid for 2 hours overtime, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Miss Wilson, you don't have a case. Your case is dismissed, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Come on.
She slandered and lied about everything in a police report. Junction City is so small, it's like air freshener. You spray a little bit, it's all over, with a matter of seconds.
She's mad because she lost her contract and she can't get no more money for not doing the job that she was supposed to be doing. She was doing the job wrong.
It's case number 547 on the calendar in the matter of Irwin versus Berlin. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat.
Miss Irwin, Mr. Berlin is your granddaughter's ex-boyfriend?
Right, Your Honor.
And you claim he owes you some money for babysitting for his daughter?
Yes, Your Honor, it was a copay.
Just a second. And then for some furniture that you purchased, which enabled him to get custody of his daughter from a previous relationship.
Yes, you're right.
Okay. Your granddaughter and the defendant have a child together?
Yes, Your Honor.
And in addition to that, sir, you have a child from another relationship?
That's correct.
The child from the other relationship is how old?
2.5.
And there came a time when you were contacted with regard to gaining custody of this child because the mother was a drug abuser?
Yes, ma'am.
When was that?
I believe it was November of 2004.
And at that time, where were you living?
At that time, I was living in a place in Portland, Oregon.
Who were you living with?
It was with Jennifer at the time.
Jennifer is Miss Irwin's granddaughter?
Correct.
And your child with her?
Correct.
When you were contacted about taking your daughter, did you at any time move in with Mrs. Irwin?
Basically, they moved in with us, and then we had to get a...
Who's they?
Ruth Irwin and also her son, Sean, moved in with us, and then we had to get a bigger place because I was basically getting custody of my daughter.
Now, what arrangement did you make with Mrs. Irwin as far as babysitting for your daughter while you worked? I assume you were working?
Correct.
Go ahead.
The arrangement was basically that she was going to watch my kid while I was at work, and at first it was okay, no payment involved. After a while, it became that she wanted to get paid for it, which I could see, it's understandable. So I went to the DHS office and...
Who's DHS?
Department of Human Resources.
So that you didn't earn enough to pay for child care, so you were getting state-subsidized care.
Correct.
And the agreement was, Miss Irwin, with the state, was that you were going to get $300 a month.
No, Your Honor.
How much a month?
The state did not pay me no $300 a month.
How much did they pay you?
The state paid me, on an average, $192 a month, and David was to match a copay, which he got extra food stamps to compensate.
Just a second, I'm speaking. You say he was to give you $169
yes.
a month? For how many months did you babysit?
4 months.
Did she babysit for 4 months?
This is correct.
Okay. In the contract that you had with the state, the contract said that you were to make a co-payment, right?
Right.
You did not make the co-payment.
Right, but that's because we had a verbal agreement to not pay.
Oh, well, I want to hear about the verbal agreement you had with Mrs. Irwin not to pay her $169 a month.
Okay. Basically, the verbal agreement was that I was going to use this money that I didn't pay her towards extra bills around the house.
What bills?
Such as water, sewage, power, rent.
So what you're telling me is you paid the water bill?
Part of it.
No, you're...
Of course you paid part of the water bill, sir. You were living there.
Correct.
I would expect you to pay part of the water bill. What else?
I paid cable, power.
Just a second. You paid it, the whole thing, or part of it?
Half of it, actually. She paid a quarter.
That's a lie.
Just a second.
That is a bull-faced lie, David.
Miss Irwin.
You knew
Miss Irwin, do you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, Your Honor, I do, but...
Good.
Will I get my opportunity to talk?
No, not unless I ask you a question. This is not a tea dance. You don't open up your mouth and start to talk to him unless I ask you a question. Do we understand each other, Miss Irwin?
Yes, I do.
Good. Now,
but this man's lying.
You want to walk out of here?
No, Your Honor.
So you paid for what you minimally were supposed to pay for. Why would she agree that you not pay the $169 a month, Mr. Berlin, if you were paying only those portions of the bills that were rightfully yours?
Because, Your Honor, the verbal agreement we had in the beginning was that the $169 that I was to pay for the copay was only to be verbally not paid if she was to be paid by the state.
Mr. Berlin, that's a lot of double talk you just gave me.
Okay.
During the time that you were staying with Miss Irwin, did you have a substance abuse problem?
Not at all.
Not at all?
No.
Ever? Did you
No.
ever have a
lie?
Shh. Miss Irwin? Miss Irwin? Did you ever have a substance abuse problem, Mr. Berlin?
Nope. I drank alcohol every now and then, but that's it. Not a problem.
It was never a problem?
No, ma'am.
Okay. She babysat for you for 4 months times $169 equals $676, sir, because that was the agreement that you signed with the state. Now, let's get to the next part. The next part is Miss Irwin says that she bought furniture for your child, not the child that you share with her grandchild, but for your child, because otherwise the state would not give you your child.
Right.
So she went out and she purchased furniture with an understanding that you would repay her.
May I say something, Your Honor?
Did she buy the furniture?
She did, but she
How
went
much
out
did
and
she
bought
pay
it.
for the furniture?
I don't know the exact
How much did you
amount.
pay for the furniture, Miss Irwin?
The total amount of the furniture. I'm sorry, Your Honor, I've got a cold and I've got a lot of paperwork here that we need to resolve because...
No, we don't have a lot of paperwork. All we have is, how much did you pay for the furniture, Miss Irwin?
Well, I am not a calculator. I did not add it all up. I listed each article. I bought a potty chair for the child from Walmart.
How much?
$7. A bed and dresser at a yard sale. The bed was $30. The dresser was $25. Very nice ones.
Go ahead.
A small television for her to watch cartoons on, which there was no cable put in that room for that child to be able to watch any television.
Miss Irwin, I asked you a question. I don't expect you to talk to him.
And $65 worth of clothes.
$127.
Right.
May I say something, Your Honor? She went out and purchased all that stuff without ever consulting me about that.
Did you need that stuff for your daughter to come and live with you?
Not necessarily, no.
What do you mean, not necessarily? She didn't need a bed?
Of course she needed a bed, but I could have got...
She didn't need a dresser?
Yes, ma'am.
They would not have allowed the child to move in with you. You have one parent who is neglecting the child. They're not going to allow a child to come and move in with you unless they see that you have the provisions for the child. Correct?
Correct.
So somebody was going to have to furnish the child with a bed and a dresser.
Right.
Who would that be?
I could have done it, Your Honor.
But you didn't.
I would have done it on my next paycheck.
So when you got your next paycheck, you should have given her back the money. She bought it. $127, very cheap, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good.
Your Honor, could I say one thing?
No.
Well, it's very important to know...
I don't want to hear you. So far, you're not losing.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She's a very bitter woman, Your Honor.
Bitter. Well, then I wouldn't want to live
Your
with her.
Honor,
So
I
don't want to hear unless I ask you a question.
And later today...
I want you to listen to me carefully, sir. I ask questions, you give me answers, and then we both leave here happy, and you continue to adore me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ruth Irwin says her granddaughter's ex-boyfriend owes for babysitting co-payments. Ruth says the state paid its share, and now David needs to pay his.
Miss Irwin, you're suing him for the furniture that you bought, the children's clothing that you bought, and the $169 times 4 that he was supposed to pay in a copay. So far, you're not losing. There's no need for me to hear you, except irritate me.
But I have some very important evidence here, Your Honor, that needs to be said. I threw this guy out of the house.
I'm not interested. You want to tell somebody about why you threw him out of the house? Go on Jerry Springer. This case involves 2 things. Look at me, stop looking at your papers. It involves 2 things and 2 things only. Whether he's responsible for the $169 for 4 months, the answer is yes. And whether he's responsible for the baby furniture, and the answer is yes. Now, You, sir, have 30 seconds or less to explain to me your counterclaim, which, if I get it correctly, you say because she threw you out of the house, uncross your arms, because she threw you out of the house, you lost custody of your daughter. So you want all kinds of pain, suffering, and anguish. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Go to it.
Okay, well, first of all, she threw me out of the house because she claimed that I was depressed, so I went to go check it out. I called, and she says to never come back again. So basically, after that, I was basically homeless, and I had to say that I couldn't take care of my daughter because I was basically homeless. So because of that, she still has a lot of my property, such as this TV right here in this picture, which I have a receipt, which I bought a new one with.
Which anguish is that?
And
in what category does the TV come under mental anguish?
Basically, she still has some of my property. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Well, is your lawsuit mental anguish, or is it your property?
It's both, Your Honor.
Well, let's start with the anguish.
Okay. Well, the anguish basically is she made me lose custody of my daughter.
No.
And
she didn't make you lose custody of your daughter. The state took the child away.
Well, she basically kicked me out. That's how I lost custody of my daughter. I would have kept having custody of my daughter if I stayed in that place.
She didn't want you there anymore.
I understand this, Your Honor, but I was living there, and there was no reason why I should have been kicked out in the first place.
Why do you think she kicked you out, Mr. Berlin?
Because she thought I had depression, which I did, because she made life very unbearable there for me.
So she thought you were suffering from depression. She didn't want you in the house anymore, and you acknowledge that you were suffering from depression, but you say you were suffering from depression because she was making life intolerable for you with the house.
Absolutely. She's a very bitter woman, Your Honor.
Bitter? Well, then I wouldn't want to live
Your
with her.
Honor,
So I don't want to hear anything unless I ask you a question. Do you understand? Good. If she's making your life unbearable, you take your child and you move. That's what you do.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't sue for it.
Okay.
She's not responsible for keeping you in her house, nor is she responsible for the state taking your child away. Is the child now back with her mother?
Yes, ma'am.
So the state had an option of giving the child back to her mother, who was a drug abuser, or you, who was depressed. Is that right?
I believe so,
That was the choice. That was some choice. All right, now let's get to the television set. May I see a photograph, please, of the television set?
This is the actual picture of the television set right here, but the back of it is a receipt that I replaced it with a new television because, well, basically I gave up hope of receiving my television again.
Listen to me.
Yeah.
I want to see the bill where you purchased this television set.
I don't have that, Your Honor.
When did you purchase it?
It was October of 2003.
Okay. You have that television set, Miss Irwin?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Where is it?
Yes, you do.
No, I do not have the TV, Your Honor, because that was purchased between him and my granddaughter. They each shared that cost.
Just answer my question, Miss Irwin. Where is the television?
You know, it's in the living room.
Okay. Just a second. Where's your granddaughter?
In the living room, probably watching it. She paid for half of it.
Just a second.
No, she did not.
Just a second.
You got proof?
Miss Irwin, you don't understand what I'm saying to you, madam. Put the papers down. Don't speak to him.
He's a parasite, Your Honor.
Don't speak to him. And only answer my questions. Other than that, I don't want to hear you. Now, Mr. Berlin, you don't have a receipt for this television set indicating that you purchased it?
No, ma'am, I bought it.
You don't get it. You have to give her $803, Mr. Berlin. That is for 4 months of copay on the child care and your daughter's furniture, which she purchased, which she has no particular use for, with the understanding that the reason she purchased it was because the state was not going to permit you to retain or to gain custody of your 2-year-old unless you had a bed and a dresser, which she furnished and which, according to you, you were going to purchase with your next paycheck. And when you got your next paycheck, you should have given her the money back for it. That's the decision of the court. And for your mental anguish, you get a zippo, nada. You lost custody of your child because you were ill-equipped to take care of her.
Your
That's
Honor.
the only reason. And unless you're quiet, you're going to get nothing. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $803. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Got what you deserve, David. Nothing. Totally nothing. David didn't get called out for his misbehavings, but justice was served.
She's a very bitter old woman. She needs to come to her senses and stop being so bitter.
It's his virgin. I'm not an alcoholic. I drink a fifth a week.
Stay away from this woman over here.
You know, he's called until I'm committing suicide. Final thoughts is he'd do the state a blessing.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Strickland versus Johnson. Step forward, please.
Bar owner Michael Strickland is suing former patron, construction worker Brad Johnson, for putting a fist through his jukebox. Brad says he only tapped it with his finger.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me see the guilty finger. Show me.
That's the one.
That's the one. See? Just solve this whole case. Let me explain it to you, Bird.
Thank you.
Mr. Strickland owns a bar. Mr. Johnson is a customer, and he's been a customer for a long time.
Yes.
And according to Mr. Strickland, Mr. Johnson broke his jukebox. And he broke his jukebox because he was tapping on the glass, you know, the big glass, and it broke. So
little glass.
Or a little glass, and it broke. So when I said to him, let me see the guilty finger, he showed it to me.
Oh.
Because he said, I didn't break it, I didn't do nothing. So. See how
nice.
That was?
Yeah, that was good.
Thank you. That was very good. You have to say thank you. Your experience paid off. Mr. Strickland, you have a bar, you have a jukebox. Describe the jukebox to me.
I've got a picture right here.
That would be
to start it off.
Pleasant.
This is a little nicer picture just to show it's not a roadhouse. It's a nice establishment.
Oh, yeah.
They have families
Right.
and so forth that go in there. It's not just a
That's a jukebox.
bar.
This is on the wall, sir? It's mounted on the wall?
Yes, it is.
And it was broke. The glass broke.
Yes.
That's
and
what
I
it's
can
all
show you
about.
that as well.
When did the glass break, sir?
When he put his fist through it.
What date is what I want to know?
It would be the 22nd of December.
Of last year.
Of last year. Correct.
And he had been a customer for a long time.
Yes.
You played the jukebox before.
Absolutely.
And this time it jammed.
Oh, yeah, it's one of the little push buttons. Oh, sorry.
It jammed. Something wasn't
working right. That's correct.
So what did you do to help it work right?
I pushed a little harder.
Pushed a little harder with your guilty finger?
With my finger.
With your guilty finger. And as a result of that, the glass...
It kind of spider-webbed out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you know that you have several ways of resolving a non-functioning jukebox. The first thing you do is use your words. You go over to the manager and you say, I put in my quarter and it didn't work.
Right.
But if you use your finger, and your finger is attached to that muscle that looks like you work out occasionally?
No.
Well, it certainly looks like you work out, sir. That's a compliment.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're welcome. If it breaks during the natural course of your use, you're not responsible.
Right.
But if you resort to extraordinary measures, like using your guilty finger, raise that guilty finger again, sir.
It's right there.
Mr. Johnson, that's the guilty finger, then you have to pay for the damage. Is that fair?
Oh, no.
Why do you think it's not fair, Mr. Johnson?
I think anybody came up there and pushed it could have broke it. Now, if I put my fist through it...
Well, just a second. Anybody could have. Let me tell you this. If my 6-year-old granddaughter, who weighs 34 pounds, put her finger on it like this, it would not have broken.
Unless it was already cracked.
But it wasn't already cracked.
Well, we don't know that.
We do know that when you put your finger on it,
yes,
tapped it with that sizable bulk behind it because you were frustrated. How much money had you put in?
Oh, not very much. I wasn't frustrated. Just...
Your Honor, can I tell you a little bit about his behavior?
You can tell me about his behavior, sir, but does it look like it's necessary?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Now, how long had you been in the bar that night, Mr. Johnson, before we tapped on the jukebox?
Oh, we'd just been there for a little while.
What's a little while, sir?
Maybe a half hour.
How much did you have to drink in that half hour?
Personally, a couple of beers.
Okay. And were you dancing or just hanging around?
I don't dance.
You should dance.
Look at me.
Now, the plaintiff, Mr. Strickland, also says that when you get drunk, you act a little stupid, and you ran out during another instance on a $200 bar tab. Did you do that?
That's what he says.
Your Honor,
did you... Shh. Mr. Johnson, did you do that?
I walked out, but it wasn't my bar tab.
Whose bar tab?
Oh, I have no idea. We had like 8 people with us.
Did you pay it?
No. I put money down on the table with everybody else, and they all left. So, but it always comes back.
Did you eventually pay the $200?
Absolutely.
It's not the way to.
Did you eventually pay the $200?
Yeah, I dropped off a check there.
Okay.
Well, of course, like a couple weeks later.
Mr. Johnson, I want you to listen to me carefully, sir. I ask questions, you give me answers, and then we both leave here happy, and you continue to adore me, right? Did the police come to your house and discuss the $200 bar tab?
No, they called me.
They called you.
Yes.
They didn't come to us. They called you.
Right.
And it was after that that you dropped off a check?
Yes.
Very good. Now, cost them $1,515.50 to fix what your guilty finger did.
All right.
Judgment for the plaintiff in that amount. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Case number 569 on the calendar in the matter of Yatar versus Safford.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Ms. Yatar, you and Mr. Stafford were engaged to be married, and according to your complaint, you were living in a condo that was owned by your mother. And when you moved in, the two of you decided to do some renovations on the condo. Mr. Stafford terminated the engagement rather abruptly, and you claim owes you money for a Home Depot bill that he promised to pay for materials to renovate your mother's condo. Mr. Stafford says that that's ridiculous. Why should he pay to renovate a condo that belongs to your mother? In addition, when he left a whole bunch of stuff there, electronics and things that more than cover the value of this bill. However, he's counterclaiming for that. And in addition, he says that you began a course of conduct that borders on harassment, which he's going to tell me about. When did you move into your mother's condo?
In December of 2004. 2003, I'm sorry.
When did you become engaged?
In February of 2004.
What kind of work did you have to do in the condo?
We didn't have to do anything. We decided to fix, when my mom had decided to get a job in Boston, we fixed up the 2 rooms that were adjoining, which included the master bedroom. We both decided that it would just be nice to make it a little more homey because it would be our home for a few years, probably.
What kind of work did you do, Mr. Stafford, in the house?
I replaced the drop ceiling, knocked the wall out, painted both rooms, built a entertainment center into the wall.
You're pretty handy.
None of it got finished.
Shh. Well, it's pretty handy even to start it. Now, tell me why you think, Ms. Yatow, that he should pay for this outstanding bill from Home Depot.
Because we made an agreement that it all started with a computer. We each had a computer. One was a laptop, Macintosh, one was an IBM. And we were going to switch because we needed each other's computers. And
why did you need each other?
Because I had a Mac and he records music and it was better for that. And I needed an IBM because I was working on an honors project and the Mac wasn't compatible. But then he moved in, so that kind of faded away. Right. And then his computer ended up crashing. So we decided to buy a new computer, and we put it on a Best Buy credit card, which I paid off when I graduated from college, and I got graduation money. So he told me, we made the agreement that if I paid off for the computer that we both shared, that he would pay for the Home Depot credit card, which was less money than the computer.
When did you buy the computer?
Probably April or May.
Does that sound like the deal that you made with her?
It wasn't to pay off one and pay off the other. We kind of split everything, so it was split everything.
No.
Now, when did you leave, Mr. Stafford?
June, July, the end of June, first week of July.
Under what circumstances did you leave?
Not good circumstances, actually. A couple of things had come to light.
I don't want to hear about it. It's not important. Did you have a discussion? Did you?
No.
Well, we had an argument because she cheated on me, and it came.
This isn't true.
It came.
Okay, you had an argument, and?
Yeah, and after I found out, what had been going on, I just took my stuff and left.
Did you take the engagement ring?
Not when I left initially.
You came back to get the engagement ring?
We had conversations about trying to work out the bills and to work out the situation after I left, and she gave it back to me. We had made a second agreement as far as a few of the things that I would get returned. And,
like what?
Air conditioner, futon, GameCube.
You mean all the things that I just told you to have? Told you to come back and get?
Mr. Yatow, don't interrupt him. Go ahead.
And I was going to get that stuff back and then give her a little bit of money to help her out with various things, nothing.
So did that come about?
I went by the house and I went to pick up the stuff, and the stuff that I was looking for was either not there or in a room that was locked that I didn't go in.
There's no locks on the doors in our house.
What word didn't you understand about being quiet? How much money were you going to give her?
The Home Depot bill was around like $500 or $600, and I had offered to give her half of that and get some of the stuff back. Most of the stuff that I was getting back was extra. She had another television and another air conditioner, and the futon was
extra. How long
extra.
had you been together at that point, Mr. Stafford?
A little less than a year.
Let's get to the harassment.
As far as after
Unless
the
you want to
agreement,
forget the harassment.
well, after the agreement that we had made, I told her, I said, you got to get everything together for me if you want me to come back and get it. And she never called me back with that we didn't talk for about a month or two. And I just left her alone. She called a couple of times, my parents' house, and looking for me. And it wasn't really until January that it got bad because I had W-2s and they were actually sent to that address. And she called my house and told my mother that she wasn't going to return them until she got her money. And I never got them.
Why didn't you send them as W-2s?
I asked his mother what to do, and she said, I'll let him know that you called with them, because the minute I received them, I called and said, now, the truth is I could never get a hold of him after we broke up.
Why didn't you just send it to his mother?
I just didn't think it was worth it. I haven't opened them. They're still sitting at my house. He never asked me for them. He has my email address. I didn't know what to do with them.
Why didn't you just send them to his mother?
Because she didn't ask me to. She said, I'll let him know that you called.
Go.
So then it was an issue of, before any of this taking me to court for any type of money, we had been emailing each other to try and figure things out. And at one point in time, the agreements had been put on paper on email. And I noticed I tried to log in.
Do you have a copy of that agreement? I'd like to see it.
I tried to log into my email a couple of times and I couldn't get in. Someone had been breaking into my email. So I had sent Yahoo had sent me a letter saying that someone had been entering it.
Let me see. Do you have that letter?
Yes, right here. It says the 3 things they needed to do to get into my email account. Emails were being deleted, written.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You even say, I'm going to sell the ring that I'm not giving back to you. Did you do that?
I returned it to the place. They gave me a credit.
Look at my eyes and eyes and tell me exactly what you did.
I did.
Look at my eyes.
And later today.
Is it correct that her car was blocking the alleyway?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
The reason why I did not park on the street is because there's a sign that says no parking on pavement.
I don't care if you park on Pluto.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Andrea Yataw says ex-boyfriend James Safford owes for a credit card bill and unfinished renovations to her mother's home. James says Andrea has been hacking his emails.
You seem to indicate in this email, Mr. Stafford, that the reason that you were offering money to Monsieur Tao is that you didn't want her mother to be out of money. When did her mother give you money?
I had a financial hold on a transcript I was trying to get sent to transferring from one college to another. So she offered to help me out with getting the transcript sent there because it would have affected my enrolling in school for September.
And how much did she give you?
It was $550 something, I think.
Is that right?
Yes.
Has he returned that money to you?
No, he hasn't.
Well, do you think you should return that to her?
Yeah, one of the things that I had mentioned about returning the money to her mother when we had a conversation was that it initially was agreed that it was not to be returned, and it wasn't changed until our agreement changed, until things changed with us. Everything all of a sudden changed, and now I want money for this, I want money for that.
Well, I mean, you can understand that, Mr. Stafford, because when her mother gave you the money, she thought you and her daughter were building a future together, and she said, I don't want your future to suffer. I mean, I assume that's common sense. I don't want your future to suffer because you can't get these transcripts released. I'm going to give you the money that you need to do it, right? But it seems that in your emails, you suggest that you are taking on and assuming that obligation.
Mm-hmm.
And you even say, I'm going to sell the ring that I'm not giving back to you. Did you do that?
No, I returned it to the place. They gave me a credit.
Look at my eyes and look at my eyes and tell me exactly what you did.
I did.
Look at my eyes.
I returned it for credit, which I actually gave to my mom, and my mother used it to buy something for herself. I couldn't use anything.
What was the credit for the ring?
It was like $2,500.
All right. You plan on giving Monsieur Tao back the $500 so that she can give it to her mother?
For the money I was given for school should be.
Fine. Now, I still haven't figured out what this terrible harassment is and how you relate it to Monsieur Tao.
It was basically the email hacking. I have the 4 dates that Yahoo gave me. Emails were deleted and sent to people, and Yahoo gave me 4 dates, and I addressed
Other than the fact that you believe Monsieur Tao has had the opportunity and inclination to do that, do you have any proof that it was, in fact, she who did it?
They wouldn't give me anything in writing unless I had a court order.
So the answer is no, other than the fact that she had the opportunity, inclination, and probably did it. You don't have any proof that she did it.
Right.
You're going to give her back the $500? She's going to probably give it to her mother. This has nothing to do with the Home Depot bill. Home Depot bill is yours. You got your place. What?
When he moved in those rooms,
just a second. You want to speak to me? Stand up here. You don't want your money?
I have.
You don't want. I'm asking you. Do you want your money or not? If this money is given to you, it's given to you so that we can, in the nature of judicial expediency, so that you're not in a position to ever sue him.
Right.
Again, this is the money that he took from you in order to get his transcripts released, which he acknowledges here that he intends to pay you for.
He intended to pay me for the Home Depot credit card. That's also one of the emails.
No, my dear. Maybe he's not swift, but I am. The agreement with him was that the two of you were going to share this new computer.
But he took my
I'm speaking! You purchased it, and the agreement was that he was going to pay one bill, according to you, and you were going to pay this bill. You paid the bill for your computer, and you kept the computer. Now, if he agreed to pay the Home Depot bill and your mother wants to give him the condo, that's fine.
The repairs didn't need to be made.
They didn't need to be made.
He convinced us to do them and then said, I will pay for it. It wasn't even, it's not
Miss
even...
Yatow, grow up. Do you want your money or not? The answer is simple.
No, but he ripped a, he'd made repairs and he ripped a wall out and left it that way. It was exposed.
We had to pay to get it
fixed.
Then you made a mistake in judgment by saying, go ahead and do it. Then you made a mistake in judgment.
I did.
Good.
I said I'd marry.
Well, then you learn from it and you go on. But not every mistake in your judgment is a court case.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Andrea Yataw says ex-boyfriend James Safford owes for a credit card bill and unfinished renovations to her mother's home. James says Andrea has been hacking his emails.
Sometimes you make a mistake in judgment and you just have to say,
what about
I'm not going to do this again.
What about the ring that was my property?
No, it wasn't. It was an engagement ring. It was not your property.
I didn't break the engagement. He
doesn't make any difference
who
broke the engagement. Miss Yatow, it does not. It does not. The ring, an engagement ring, is given in contemplation of getting married. Last I heard, the two of you did not get married. I mean, if the engagement was broken, rather than having a bad marriage, that's a good thing.
Oh, yes, of course.
That's a good thing.
Thank God.
So the ring does not belong to you until after you say, I do. But if your mother wants her money back, then the two of you can go on your respective life's paths without ever having to come into contact with each other again. I'm going to give her back her money, and you're prepared to do that. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's what. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He never gave me a reason for leaving. Now he says I cheated on him. That's not true.
If someone cheats on you and then sends you emails that says they cheated on you, and they're right here, but I guess I just didn't need them to show the judge.
His girlfriend gave me a nice, emailed me and said that I was hacking into the email and that I was deleting emails necessary for court and that I was crazy.
It was kind of getting ridiculous. Someone was changing his password 3 times and the only emails missing were the ones that she had sent him in correspondence.
She thinks that I've been chasing him around clubs and bars. I've seen him once since we broke up.
Every time going out places, her coming up to him and as soon as seeing him with me, leaving at bars and stuff, it's, thank God.
Parties on Burgess versus Rojas. Step forward, please.
Kathy Burgess is suing her neighbor, 32-year-old Rana Rojas, for non-payment of babysitting services. Kathy says when Rana didn't come home, she had no choice but to drop the kids off at a police station. Rana was furious that Kathy would do such a thing and refused to pay her.
Order, all rise. Now, this is case number 175 on the calendar in the matter of Burgess versus Rojas. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat. Have a seat.
And Ms. Burgess, your complaint alleges that you babysat for the defendant's 2 children. You had an agreement with her that she was to pay you $125 for babysitting for her children from when to when?
Well, she actually said $100 and $25 for food, and it was from Friday night at 8 o'clock until 8 o'clock the next day, and that she would pick up her kids.
8 p.m. the next day?
Right.
So for a 24-hour period?
Right.
And had you babysat for her children before?
Absolutely.
And had been paid?
No, I had not been paid. I babysitted one night when her little girl was out crying that her mom was on drugs. I did that as a charity cause, you know, just to be a good person. I did it a second time. She had claimed that I babysitted her for a few hours. She had claimed that her mother was alongside the roadside and it was an emergency and she had to go that time. She offered to pay me that time. I didn't take it. And later on, my son said that she was all dressed up to go out for the evening. And
so you had taken care of her children before on a few occasions but had not been paid?
That's right.
But on this occasion, you were going to be paid. Why?
Right. Because it was going to be a long time, and because I had other plans, we had other things to do. It was going to be for a long period of time.
When did she contact you about these plans for Friday to Saturday?
It was approximately 30 minutes before 8 o'clock.
On Friday night?
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Well, where were you going?
I was going to Fontana, California.
For what?
To take care of some business, to look for some trucks, some 10-wheeler trucks. My mom was originally supposed to babysit. An hour before I got ready to go, she reneged and she said that she wasn't feeling well, that she could not do it. So that's when I called Kathy. I called Kathy at about 7:30 that evening. I asked Kathy, would she be able to babysit for me? She asked me, how much would I pay her? I told her I'd be gone until 8 o'clock, probably somewhere around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock that Saturday evening. Kathy asked me, could I pay her up front all of the monies? I told her no. I said, I'll give you half now and half upon my return.
So did you give her half?
Yes, I did. I
How
gave
much
her the
did you-
$50.
Is that correct?
She gave me $50. But
Okay.
she also said that she was going to give me $25 for the food.
Okay, assuming that's correct. Assuming that she said she was going to give you $25 for the food for 24 hours that you were going to watch her two children. She gave you $50. So that means she owed you $75. Is that correct?
Right.
Well, she didn't come
She's
back.
not
'cause
being honest.
Just a second. Assuming that that's correct.
Yeah.
I haven't said it's correct, but assuming that's correct, that means that at this point, if she came home at 8 o'clock on Saturday night, you would have gotten another $75, correct?
Right.
What happened at 8 o'clock on Saturday night?
Well, there was no call, and I waited up all night for her, and I paged her several times at long distance. She never called. When in the morning, when I finally spoke to her, she said her pager was off. And then, and on and on and on. I mean, you know, my kids know too.
On and on and on. I mean, your complaint goes on for a long period of time. You left your children with a neighbor for
I did.
24 hours,
Yes.
and then you don't show up.
Okay, what happened, the deal was, I told Kathy that I would be returning that Saturday evening. I told her, however, if I did return too late, that I would not disturb them and wake them up. I said I would not disturb them and wake them up, but I called.
Why didn't you come back for your... Look at me. Why didn't you come back for your children when you were supposed to?
Because we were driving, and I didn't want my
Who was driving?
My boyfriend. He was driving, and I didn't want him driving. That time of night, he had had no sleep, and I didn't want him driving from that evening until that morning. I didn't feel safe. When I spoke with Kathy, I did call. Brittany said that you sat there and listened to me. It would not pick up the phone.
It's not true at all.
Just a second. I mean, quite frankly, I've read I've read your complaint and I've read your answer. I find both of your actions absolutely outrageous. Yours and hers. Because what you did when she didn't come back is you took her children to the police station. That's an outrageous thing to do. Miss
That's
Burgess?
right. 24 hours after, and I had other things to do.
No, just a second. Whether you had other things to do or not. Compassion for her
She abandoned her children.
Listen to me.
And I had compassion. I was crying and everything. I had compassion. I felt really bad.
Children.
Her child was out of control. She had slammed my son in the back. He has rollerblades in the back of his thing.
Miss Burgess, did you call? You had her mother's number. Hey.
I had not her mother's number.
Just a second.
Her daughter did.
Fine. If her daughter had her grandmother's telephone number, and if things had gotten that kind of out of control,
we called on Sunday to come get her.
Hey, why didn't you just let her call her grandmother, you get on the phone and say, I cannot, it's Sunday morning, I have plans, the kids are not getting along, because according to your complaint, all the kids were not getting along well.
That's what we
And
did.
that's what I didn't understand.
Just a second. I'm not finished with you yet. Because you put your boyfriend over your children. So I'm not finished with you yet.
I put my safety over
you
my
put
children.
your boyfriend over your children.
That's exactly right.
Everybody puts themselves over children. Children are the innocents. They didn't ask to have a mother who goes traipsing off for 2 days, leaves her children with a stranger to go looking for a 10-wheeler truck.
They've been knowing Kathy for 8 months. She's not a stranger. Her children are at my house on a daily basis.
I wouldn't leave my children with somebody that I knew for 8 months for a weekend.
Her children are at my house every day.
So what?
They come stay with me for hours while she goes shopping. I've never charged Kathy for babysitting.
That's not
true.
true.
Oh, Kathy, please.
Miss Rojas.
Kathy, tell the truth.
Listen to me. I'm going to throw you both out of here in 2 seconds because you both deserve each other. You did the wrong thing by taking the children to the police station. You had an alternative. Your alternative was to call the grandmother and say, if you do not... Don't interrupt me. If you do not come to pick up your grandchildren, I'm taking them to the police station.
I did that.
Oh, yeah? You, just a second.
In the morning, I did that, and I called the police officer.
No,
and I said,
I'm
what
not
do I
asking
do?
you police. Don't dance around it. You called and spoke to the grandmother.
She never called back. We said, come get your kids. She never called back.
No, I didn't say come get your kids.
You know, you could have
Just
called
never
me.
called back.
Miss Rojas,
She had
I
two
want you
mobile
to...
phone numbers.
Could never get through.
You tell me.
I'm going to tell you, because I'm going to throw her out in 2 seconds.
Okay.
I told you, when I ask you a question, you'll answer it.
Okay.
This is a courtroom.
Okay.
Good. You did not call the children's grandmother and say to them, I am not...
my phone call. Never returned the phone
No,
call.
I don't believe you, Miss Burgess.
I
don't
swear
believe.
that we did
I do
that.
not believe that you called the grandmother and left a message either on her machine or
She
speaking
did.
to somebody
Baby
at the
did.
house. Not
Also.
her, you.
I did also. And you know, I did
Just
have
a second.
compassion.
You did what? Yeah, I want you to look at me and tell me what you did Sunday morning with her grandmother.
I called the we called the grandmother.
Not we.
I
you.
didn't have the grandmother's number, first of all.
But
we
she
had her
did.
call it, and then I called the grandmother. She never came. And I had compassion. I was crying
Just
when
a
I took the little girl there.
second.
You're a liar.
You can say
You're a
that.
liar.
You can say
That's
that.
just why you came here with that red dress on looking like Satan.
Throw her out of the courtroom.
Out. Step out, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I feel sorry for your children. You are clearly an unfit custodian for your children. It's just too
I don't
bad that they
believe
don't
so.
have alternatives.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kathy Burgess wants to be paid for babysitting Rana Rojas's children. Rana says she won't pay the bill because Kathy dropped her kids off at a police station when she was late getting home.
Bert, is she ready to come back into the courtroom?
Yes, Judge.
Good. Now, just answer my questions. You said you had this little girl call her grandmother. Is that right?
And I called too.
Could you step up here for me? Right up here. Right up here. Tell me your name.
Brittany,
How old are you, Brittany?
9 years old.
Okay. You know about telling the truth?
Yes,
You know how important it is to tell the truth in court?
yes,
So if I ask you some questions, you sure you're going to tell me the truth?
yes,
Brittany, you remember staying with Miss Rojas?
yes,
Do you remember when your mom left?
yes.
Can you tell me what your mom told you when she left?
My mother told me that.
Look at me.
She told me that she would be back Saturday evening, and she said if she didn't, she would call.
Do you know where she was going?
Yes.
Where was she going?
She was going to Fontana, I believe,
For what?
for looking for a truck with her boyfriend.
Do you know why you weren't staying with your grandma?
Because my grandma had denied it.
Had said no,
Yes,
that she wasn't going to babysit.
yes,
Do you spend a lot of time with your grandma?
yes,
And you know her phone number.
yes.
Did you call her on Sunday?
Yes, but she was not home. She was probably either sleeping or at work.
So you didn't reach her when you spoke, when you tried. Do you know if Miss Burgess tried to call her on Sunday?
No,
So nobody else tried to call her all day Sunday?
no.
And how many times had you tried to call her?
I tried to call her twice.
And there was no answer?
No.
What time did you try to call?
I
Grandma?
called her at 11:45,
Mm-hmm.
between 11 and 12.
What time did you get up Sunday morning?
Sunday morning, I got up at 10:30 p.m. I mean,
10:30 a.m. So you were up late Saturday night?
Yeah.
How late were you up?
Up until 12:30.
What were you doing so late?
We were playing, and we were, like, watching TV.
Any problems in the house while you were there? Were you fighting with those two kids over there?
No, we weren't.
Has your mom ever left to go away on weekends before with her boyfriend?
Once.
You like this boyfriend of your mother's?
Yeah,
Yes or no?
sort of.
How long has she had this boyfriend?
For about 7 or 8 months.
Mm-hmm. Does he ever stay at your house?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You're a nice little girl.
Thank you.
Smart. You do well in school?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Good. Looks to me like you do well in school. How'd you feel when you went to the police station?
I felt scared, and I felt like Kathy didn't want us anymore, and Kathy didn't like us.
Before you went to the police station, did you try to call Grandma again?
Yes.
What happened?
She had answered, but she had said, I can't come and pick you up because she was cooking and she had to go to the doctor.
Who spoke to her?
Me.
Did Kathy speak to her at all?
Yes. Kathy had said that she didn't need my grandmother.
Who did she say that to?
My mother, my grandmother.
When did she say that?
She said that right before when we went to the police station.
Okay, go and sit down. Now, Miss Burgess, when you spoke to the children's grandmother right before you took them to the police station, did you tell her that you were planning to take the children to the police station?
I did not speak to the grandmother before I took them to this. I spoke in the morning. We left a message in the morning.
I didn't ask you that question.
Then that's no to the answer.
Okay, because she spoke to her grandmother in the afternoon.
Well, I didn't.
It's clear to me that...
And I called the police station. I asked him what I do.
Miss Burgess,
kids,
stop interrupting me. Only one person can talk at one time. That's me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're a child abuser.
Get you some menopause pills and get you some psych meds, and you're going to be fine.
You better learn how to be a mother instead of screwing around.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kathy Burgess wants to be paid for babysitting Rana Rojas's children. Rana says she won't pay the bill because Kathy dropped her kids off at a police station when she was late getting home.
If the child was able to speak to her grandmother in the late afternoon, and her grandmother said to her, I can't come and get you because I'm cooking, or whatever.
What a reason.
It's clear to me that you could have spoken to her too in the afternoon because at that point she was in fact home.
She never called the grandmother in the afternoon. I left a message.
I believe that you did.
Whatever.
I believe that she spoke to her grandmother in the afternoon because it...
Anyway. Okay.
I believe that she did because this child would not tell me something that would be hurtful to her.
What about my children? You don't care about talking to them?
I'm not interested in talking to your children. For what reason?
Because he has an injury on his back.
Listen to
and
me.
things like that. She did.
Listen to me. Miss Burgess, that's not what this case is about.
I'll tell you what this case is about, Judge Judy. This case is about she left her mother she left her kids for 2 days. I agreed for 1 day. Her child was out of control because she was hurt that her mother didn't keep a promise. I had no alternative. I didn't know she was going to come back and get her kids. Maybe she would have been a week.
That's bull.
Listen to me.
So I mean, I had no alternative. I felt bad about doing it. I was crying at the police station.
I just really wish you would start telling the truth.
I wish you would. And come get your kids and keep your promise. You're hurting
Miss
your kids
Burgess!
also.
Don't talk to her. I've already thrown her out once because she doesn't know where she is. What I'm telling you is, you agreed to take care of the children. I believe that Ms. Rojas was totally and completely irresponsible, took off with her boyfriend, and didn't give two hoots about disappointing her children and not coming back for an additional, not hour,
or mine.
not 2, I'm speaking.
Okay, go ahead.
Not 1 hour. Not 2 hours, not 3 hours, but another 24 hours before she showed up for her kids. That's irresponsible.
That's right.
No question about that. What I'm suggesting to you is the children are always the innocents.
That's right, they are.
And they should not have been taken to a police station until every other possibility was exhausted. And that meant, Miss Burgess, whether you like to acknowledge it or not, spending the entire afternoon on Sunday trying to reach their grandmother and saying to their grandmother, I can't control all these 4 kids together. They're not getting along. I have no alternative at this point, but if you don't come to get them, I'm going to have to take them to the police station. I believe that you had a responsibility to do that. And, Miss Burgess, you can dance around from today till tomorrow. You did not do that.
I left a message to the mother. I
That's
did it.
Not
That's what
good.
the police told me to do.
That is not good enough before
Whatever.
you take children to the police station. As for you, Miss Rojas,
It's everything is called a mother these days. You clearly have a boyfriend that interests you more than the welfare of your children. Let us assume I believe what you said, which I don't. Let us assume I believe what you said, that you didn't want to drive late at night with your boyfriend on Saturday night because you didn't feel safe. And it was already late at night. So you check into a motel with your boyfriend, and you sleep from 9 o'clock p.m. until 2 o'clock in the morning from wherever you are. That gives you 5 hours sleep, more than enough time to be fresh, so that when your children get up first thing Sunday morning, you're home, 7 o'clock in the morning, with your apologies to Miss Burgess for not being home at 8 o'clock when you said you were going to be home.
Right.
You didn't show up at the police station till 6 o'clock Sunday night.
No,
Where were you?
No,
on
I got there before 6.
Where were you all day Sunday?
All day Sunday we were driving. It took us 8 hours to drive.
Well, let me ask you this question.
It took 8 hours to drive from San Diego. We ended up going, after Fontana, we went to San Diego.
Why did you go to San Diego?
Because we wanted to. She was aware. She was aware.
I want to tell you something.
I have phone records where I stayed on the phone with Kathy Sunday morning at 9 a.m. and 11 for 6 minutes and 4 minutes.
I feel sorry for your children.
6 minutes and
you
4
are
minutes.
clearly an unfit custodian for your children. It's just too bad that they don't have alternatives.
I don't believe so.
Well, I'm telling you, I believe so, and I've been around probably longer than you've been alive. So you are unfit to take care of your children because what you did was place your pleasure time over the welfare of your children.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
What you did, Miss Burgess, was not the right thing either. However, you are entitled to babysitting money for these children because you did, in fact, babysit for them. Now, you're asking for $650 when your original agreement with her, according to you, was... When your original agreement, according to you, was $125, according to her, $100. So even if I give you the benefit of the doubt and you kept the children an additional 24 hours, that would be an extra $125 or $250, not $650.
That's not exactly. Please let me explain my case, okay?
I'm giving you $250, madam. You are lucky you're getting it because you are lucky that you're getting it. $250 for the plaintiff.
Parties are excused. Step out.
Whatever.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Hell, look at this.
Kathy, please.
Look what your daughter did to my son. You don't care? You're out screwing around with your boyfriend.
You're a liar.
You shut the hell up. I think you're trash. You're not worthy to have kids, and you ought to go get rid of your kids. And you also burned the little girl because she came over and asked him. You didn't want to come get your kids. You want to go to Nuggetown.
You're putting on a
told
big
me.
show, aren't you?
I don't care.
Oh, look at you.
That's right.
Relax before you have a heart attack. Shut up, Miss Piggy.
Parties on Blaylock versus Carter Bruce. Step forward, please.
50-year-old contractor Larry Blaylock says Billy Ray Carter's dog killed his ostrich.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 190 on the calendar in the matter of Blaylock versus Carter Bruce. Parties have been sworn in except for the dog. You may be seated.
Dogs always tell the truth.
Yes.
Mr. Blaylock, Mr. Bruce is your neighbor.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bruce. Mr. Carter moved into Mr. Bruce's home along with this dog.
Into his tech room. Combination tech room.
On his property.
On his property.
With this dog.
Yes.
Problem arose, Mr. Blaylock, because according to your complaint, you raise on your property ostriches.
Yes, ma'am.
And how many ostriches did you have at the time of this incident, sir?
38.
Why?
Profit. Raised for meat and skin.
Where do you live?
Norco, a suburb of Riverside.
In California?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you permitted to have 38 ostriches on your property?
To my reluctance, I found out that I have got to get rid of 9 birds.
Did you find that out before or after?
After.
This incident?
After.
According to these papers, sir, you claim that this dog here killed one of your ostriches.
Yes, ma'am.
So you want to tell me about it?
Well, I started raising the birds about 2 years ago with the approval of my neighbors. I checked with them before I started.
Well, let's go back a second. You say you checked with your neighbors. Not really according to your papers, sir. You say you asked your neighbors if they minded you having a few ostriches on your property.
Yes.
Did you ever tell them how many you were going to have on your property?
No, ma'am.
How large a piece of property do you have?
2.5 acres.
And how big are these birds, sir?
Well, the tallest about 6 feet, 7 feet.
And according to your papers, they weigh about 300 pounds.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, 2 acres isn't a lot of property, sir, to have that, you know, it's like having a zoo on your property.
Well, each pair of birds has their own pen of 50 by 100 feet.
Is this a residential area?
You'd have to know the premise that Norco is founded on. It's an animal lover's paradise, actually. It's for horses and...
Residential?
It is basically residential, with the thought of animals in mind.
But clearly not according to your ordinances, 38 ostrich.
I had too many ostriches at the time.
Okay. Now tell me how this incident happened with, according to you, this dog.
Well, the defendant, Billy Carter, woke me up about 6:30 one morning, said that one of my birds couldn't get up. I asked him how he knew that the bird couldn't get up, because his first statement was, you know, it had nothing to do with me or my dog. I said, well, if it had nothing to do with you or your dog, how did you know it can't get up? You know, and so I walked out.
How did you know that, sir?
I knew this was something wrong because I'm used to with horses and stuff. When they lie down and don't get up, there's something wrong. I'm not an ostrich.
So you knocked at the door and you said your ostrich can't get up. Did you go outside and look at the bird, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
And what happened to, what was the condition of the bird?
The bird was well, we call impacted or constipated.
What?
Impacted or constipated.
Constipated?
Yes. So I gave him a dose of mineral oil and came back and checked on him again.
I
at
hate
10
to
o'clock.
ask you this question, Mr. Blaylock, but, you know, I'm a judge and I have to get all the facts. How can you tell an ostrich is constipated?
Just the same way you tell a child. It's just they're listless and don't want to join the crowd. Don't want to join the others.
There aren't any other reasons why a bird wouldn't want to eat or was listless other than being constipated?
No, ma'am. It's just a common problem.
Okay. So it is a common problem with
Yes.
ostriches because of what they eat or what?
Because they can't pick up the wrong thing. I found neighborhood kids are throwing marbles and golf balls and whatever in the yard.
So they eat things
Yes.
that they
they'll
shouldn't.
They'll eat anything they can fit in their mouth.
So they're real stupid.
They're about the stupidest animal you'll ever find.
It's honest. Okay, so you gave this bird a dose of, I don't know, castor oil for
Mineral.
ostriches or mineral oil and went on your way.
Yes.
What happened after bird got a dose?
I came out about 10 o'clock to check on him and gave her another dose, and I had to hold her down to give her the second dose. So the bird was improving and feeling better.
Okay.
In good shape.
Okay.
Moving around.
Next.
Then I came back out about 1:30, as I usually do, to check on all the birds, and the bird was dead.
Describe, because that becomes very important, describe where the bird was.
Well, I have photographs where I found it, with the bird's head under the fence, the skull crushed, and a pool of blood on Mr. Bruce's side of the fence.
So the bird's head was on his property.
Yes, ma'am. You can tell from the photos the neck has been stretched where the dog tried to pull the bird over and tried to dig its way under to pull it through the fence.
Clearly, the deceased bird's head is on his property, and according to you, the cause of death was trauma to the head.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, will you want to explain to me your theory of how the bird's head got on his property? Because you would agree, sir, if the bird's head was on his property and you
Yes,
knew
ma'am.
that he had this dog there,
Yes.
then he's not liable.
Well, I've approached him on 2 or 3 occasions and asked him, because Mr. Bruce also has a large dog, a Labrador, I believe it is. And, you know, his dog barks at the birds, but it's not a real problem. When Mr. Carter moved in with a Rott, it became obvious that the Rottweiler was very antagonistic. And I asked him two or three times to restrain the Rott until he got accustomed to the birds, as the Labrador was.
Well, how'd you want him to restrain the dog?
Just keep him in the corral area until he got used to being around the birds.
He doesn't
Instead
have
of doing that, he turned him loose in the backyard.
Well, it's his backyard.
Well, that's true.
It's his
I
backyard.
just asked him as common courtesy.
Well, but you understand as a common courtesy, he doesn't have to do that. First of all,
Well, he
Mr.
didn't.
Blaylock, you were violating the law by having that many birds, right?
He's violating the law by being there, living in the tack room.
Why?
Zoning restrictions.
Well, that certainly, sir, was not raised in any of your papers that he's violating any
Yes,
law
ma'am,
by
it
living
was.
in the tack room. But that's not what you're complaining about.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If this dog killed this bird, I'll eat my hat.
And later today,
Got to keep that testosterone level, sir. You don't know who these people are. I mean, they could be even dumber than they are.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Larry Blaylock says his neighbor, Billy Ray Carter's Rottweiler, killed his ostrich. Billy Ray says the ostrich crossed over the line.
I still would like you to give me your theory of how this dog got your bird's head underneath the fence and onto his property.
Well, as you can probably deduce from the photographs, no one actually saw the bird attack, or the dog attack. I can only just guess that the bird was trying to get something under the fence. The dog approached, and when the bird tried to get away, it probably hit its head on the fence or something, couldn't get back in. And the dog killed it.
So what you're saying is your bird went under the fence to try to get something. And then when
I'm assuming that. No one actually saw it.
So how can you sue him for the cost of your bird? I mean, under either scenario, nobody saw it. And assuming the best of what you tell me, Mr. Blaylock.
Well, it's obvious his dog killed my bird.
But that's not the relevant point, sir. The relevant point is your bird was trespassing on his property. And he's allowed to have a dog. Dogs and ostriches clearly don't get along.
Putting one's head over a fence line does not constitute trespassing, does it?
Not one's head, an ostrich head. As you said, sir, the dumbest creature in creation.
Well, in that context, then if his horse comes over my fence, I can shoot it.
No. No, there's a difference, sir, between you shooting, you as a human being, shooting one of his animals, and, for instance, 38 of your ostriches getting out of their cage and going into his property and stomping on his dog. Would you be responsible?
Yes, I would feel so.
Sure, because your animals went on to his property. Your animal went on to his property.
No, ma'am.
That dog,
No,
yeah.
it didn't.
Well, you just told me that, sir. Your
I said he
animal's
stuck
head
it.
went onto his property.
The
This
bird put
dog,
his head under the fence. It did not touch his property.
If your bird's head hadn't been on his property, your bird wouldn't be dead. And your bird is clearly dead. I feel sorry for you, sir, but this dog is a dog. And animals, you know, if you watch the Discovery Channel, animals kill each other, they go after each other, they mutilate each other. I mean, that's life. That's why you put up a fence. You're supposed to have a fence that keeps your animals on your side and his animals on his side. Your animal got on his side. I don't understand the theory of how you believe he's responsible for the loss of your animal. Okay. Anything you want to say to me?
I do have a video that I think would show maybe what Mr. Blaylock's trying to say. It's up to your honor if you'd like to see it.
I love to see movies.
Stay.
Stay right there. Just the video?
Yes.
This going to show me the ostriches?
The first part of it shows where the incident happened itself. This is a home video, so it's...
Am I going to see ostriches?
Yes, ma'am. This is the incident right here. This is the hole that was made. This is the area where the bird was found. We also have pictures from animal control that they took. These are what the birds do. Mr. Bradlock is correct. They're really good fence trimmers. They will get very, very close, but I've never seen one come under, but I guess if they really wanted to, they would. What we want to point out here, though, is there is no barrier between his birds and any of our animals, our horses, or even our dogs.
Knowing that these are valuable birds, knowing the stupidity of these animals, why didn't he take proper precaution on his part? Other ostrich breeders have done this.
Well, the birds were there for months before this dog got there with the other dog, no problem.
Sir, that's not particularly relevant. I mean, if Mr. Bruce here wants to have 3 Rottweilers on his property, that is a Rottweiler, correct?
Yes.
He can do that. That's his property. He doesn't have to safeguard your birds. You have to safeguard your birds. And if that means putting up an additional fence, and you put up an additional fence, he doesn't have to be nice to your birds. That's not his problem. That's your problem. This case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He wasn't trespassing. He's doing what birds do. And don't say a dog did what dogs do, because dogs don't kill things just for the sport of it.
If he wanted that bird, there would not have been much evidence as far as that neck. He would have eaten it.
And now the next case.
Parties on Plant versus Goulet. Step forward, please.
18-year-old student Jared Plant is suing 27-year-old Steve Goulet, the future stepfather of 16-year-old Eric Gustafson. Jared says Steve smashed his truck window in a late-night parking lot showdown.
All right, let me understand this. You 2 gentlemen found yourselves in a deserted parking lot of an elementary school at 10:30 at night.
Yes.
Ready for combat. You, sir, in your complaint say that the defendant intentionally damaged your car by hitting it with some sort of a baton.
Right.
He says you tried to kill him by running him over, and he was defending himself. So, Mr. Plant, first, why don't you tell me, how old are you, sir?
18.
You go to high school?
College.
Were you in high school at the time of this incident?
It was in the summer.
So you were just graduated from high school?
Right.
You on some sort of a team in high school?
Football.
Football. I don't know why I just knew you were on the football team. And something happened, according to these papers, with this young man right here.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So why don't you start by telling me the story?
All right, we went to a movie, and we were coming home, and we pulled up next to him at a stoplight, and they took off, and they flicked us off, and...
They what?
Hand gestures to us.
Gave you a nasty hand gesture.
Yeah, so we followed
Which offended your manhood.
Sure, yeah.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Look at the size of him, the size of him. It's gonna take 5 people to come beat up on one little kid. Just kids being bullies.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 18-year-old Jared Plant says his truck window was smashed by 16-year-old Eric Gustafson's future stepfather, Steve Goulet, during a late-night parking lot showdown.
Go ahead.
And so we just followed him around for a while, and then we went back to Travis's house. And,
to Travis?
Right.
That's you.
And one of the kids knew who he was, and we looked him up in the yearbook, and another kid that isn't here called his house, and whoever answered said, meet us at the parking lot in 5 minutes. So we went there.
Mr. Plant, why did you call his house?
I didn't, another kid
Why did somebody call the house?
I don't know what to tell you.
Well, why did you accompany them to the parking lot when somebody called the house?
Because they said, let's go to the park, and so I went. There really was no reason behind going.
Except dumbness.
Right.
So here you are at a parking lot, according
Right.
to this, 10:30 at night.
Right.
And then what happened?
Well, we were parked on one side, and he was on the other side.
Who's he?
The defendant. And we were parked.
The defendant, you, sir, are his stepfather.
Soon to be, yes.
So you are engaged to his mother.
Yes.
We'll get to why you went to the parking lot in a second. I'm dying to hear why. Yes, so now here you are in the parking lot. They on one side, you on the other.
Yep.
Ready to joust.
Yep.
Go ahead.
And we were parked parallel, facing opposite directions. And he jumped out of the car, and he went like this, and there was a click, and I thought it was either a gun or a knife. So I took off, and he came up from behind and hit the back windshield.
You mean when he got out of the car, how close was he to you when he got out of the car?
He was probably 10, 15 feet.
And then he hit your car window.
Right.
And smashed it.
Right.
Let's start with the telephone call. You're home in the evening, and You get a phone call.
Yes,
Who answered the phone?
I did.
And there was a voice on the other end that said what?
Started off with, we're going to come over and kick your effing ass, and we're coming to your house, and all this, and this went on, and I'm just going, uh-huh. And I said, okay, and I wasn't sure what the problem was, and they said, we're coming over to your house right now. I said, okay, if you guys want to talk about this, that's fine. Let's go to the park. We'll talk about this. I don't want them at my house. I don't need those problems at my house. I figured, go up to the park, they'll see an adult, calm down, talk about it, dispute will be over. It's not how it happened. Go up to the park, pull in the parking lot, there's 2 entrances. One on the east side, one on the west side. I pulled in on the east, they pulled in on the west. Facing each other, about this far. I exit my vehicle, I approach her vehicle, I said, which one of you guys called my house? All of a sudden, they just peeled out and came right at me. I struck the vehicle in self-defense.
Mr. Goulet, you know how to get in touch with the police, right?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are you?
27.
A little bit older than this young man.
Yes.
And who lives in your house?
Me, Eric, his brother Landon.
How old is his brother?
I just turned 14 or 13.
Mm-hmm. So a family lives there.
Yes.
Why didn't you, sir, when you got this phone call that these brats were going to come over to your house, why didn't you say, you ready to come over to the house? I can't do anything about that, and just hang up the phone and call the police? And say, I've just been threatened. My family has been threatened. There's a gang coming over to my house. Could you please send a police officer?
Well,
why do you think this is funny?
I don't know.
Why didn't you call the police?
I'm not sure exactly.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Hindsight is 20/20, but you take this young man, who's a young teenager, you put him in a dangerous situation by taking him to a parking lot late at night. You don't know who these people are. I mean, they could be even dumber than they are. They could be. They could have weapons. They could have hurt you. Not smart, you know? Got to keep that testosterone level, sir. So your car was damaged to what extent, sir?
The back windshield was completely busted, and I had to buy a new one.
And how much did that cost you?
$300. I have the receipt right here if you want to look at it.
No, you could tell me. How much did it cost you?
It was $344.50.
Pay for it. This case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I have to pay for it?
I'll back go to your right, please.
And on the next Judge Judy.
Oh, I was going to get my kicked and this, and then as soon as I started coming near their vehicle, they came at me. I mean, 2 vehicles, 5 people to meet 1 kid. They thought they were meeting Eric. It takes 5 people to come up and meet 1 160-pound kid.
Thomas versus Eclavia. Step forward, please.
29-year-old waitress Georgina Thomas says her former friend, 36-year-old Carolyn Eclavia, made a false police report that put her in jail for 72 hours.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. All rise. Judges number 207 in the matter of Thomas versus Eclavia. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Thank you, Bert.
Very welcome, Judge.
Ms. Thomas, the basis of your complaint is that the defendant had you falsely arrested, according to you, for assault, which caused you to be embarrassed, humiliated, stressed, strained, et cetera, et cetera. Is that right?
Yes.
And your story is a rather interesting one, and I think that probably it needs an airing because it led up to this arrest.
Right.
Is that right?
Yes.
How do you know her?
When I lived in Washington State about 7 years ago, I knew her just from the neighborhood we lived in. We were friends. We've been friends. Then I ran into her again down here about a year and a half ago. So we've been friends and stayed in contact here and there when we didn't lose touch with each other for almost 7 years now.
Now, you were both living on a Navy base?
Navy military housing.
Military, both of you?
Yes, different complexes.
I understand. And according to the papers that I've seen, there was a transaction with a car that started all this trouble.
Right.
Well, tell me about that.
Okay. I sold her the car for $100, and I let her make payments on it because they had no money, no vehicle, or anything. Then I went on vacation. I signed the title and gave her the keys on the agreement that she would get it out of my name on her husband's next payday because I was leaving on vacation. And then
what kind of car was this?
Dodge 400. I bought a new car, and
How old was the car?
I think at 84 or something like that.
So it was a real old car?
Yeah.
She sold you the car?
No, she sold it to my husband. I don't even drive. I've never driven.
She sold it to you or your husband, but there was an understanding that you would get it out of her name so she wouldn't be liable for it anymore.
Yes.
Did you do that?
The agreement was she would wait until we had the money, which would be the next paycheck.
But then you didn't.
The Navy was.
But you didn't do it the next paycheck.
We didn't have the money at that time.
I don't care whether you didn't have the money. That's not her problem that you didn't have the money. Let me just understand this. And you didn't fulfill your agreement with her next paycheck to get the car out of her name. That's what this whole argument was about. Is that correct?
That's what started it, yes.
So then what happened?
Then she tells me on the day I got home that she had sold the car and it's out of my name. So I called the DMV and it was still in my name. In fact, it's in my name to this day.
Did you tell her that you sold the car?
Yes, I did sell the car. My husband and I had separated, and I didn't have any finances, so I did sell the car.
Now tell me about this assault. How did this all take place?
It was basically because her husband was driving a car around in my name uninsured. Then she sold it to somebody I don't even know who's driving it around in my name uninsured.
She's very irresponsible.
Then I talked to her on the phone and she said, come over and get your cat. She had my cat while I was on vacation. I went over there. We got into a verbal argument. All I did was throw
over the car.
Over the car, yes, and her not getting it out of my name. All I did was throw the litter box on the ground, and the next thing I know, the police are at my house telling me that I assaulted her and I threatened her life if she didn't sign a bill of sale. And I just kept insisting I didn't do this, you know, and they kept telling me, you know, this is what you did. And they arrested me.
Do you have a copy of the complaint?
The police report?
Yes.
No, I tried to get it, but it had been over 60 days, so they wouldn't give it to me without a court order.
This is untrue, what she says.
Just a minute. Did you call the police?
Yes, I did, and the reason why I called the police is when she came to pick up her mail and her cat, when I turned around to get the mail, she threw the cat on me to where it clawed my back, and its claw stuck in my back. Then I went and I tried to get outside to where somebody could see what she was doing. I did not have a phone in my home. My neighbors heard and saw her yell at me and say that she was going to come back and kill me.
You called the police?
Yes, I did call the police. She assaulted me in my own home.
Well, just a minute. Did you throw your cat on her?
No, my cat was pregnant. I would not harm my cat in any way. I never touched her. I will take a lie detector. I will do anything. I never touched her. I never assaulted. I never threatened her life. I never did any of that. The only thing her neighbors saw.
You might have said a lot of loud things because you were angry.
Exactly. But the only thing the neighbor saw was me throw the kitty litter box on the ground, which was empty, and say, I'll be back later for the car because she told me to come back for the car. The guy who bought it doesn't want to deal with this.
Do you have any photographs of how the cat injured you?
I had them at home, but I never got them developed because I dropped charges on her.
Just a second.
I did not want to press charges.
Hold on a second. Well, even if you didn't want to press charges then in the criminal proceeding, you're here today, so you knew you were coming to court today. Why didn't you get the pictures developed?
Because I did not even want to have it brought this far.
But you know you were coming here, madam.
And I did not want it brought this far.
Well,
she did not drop the charges. They dropped the charges because she never responded to any of it. The DA dropped the charges.
No,
she never responded to them.
How
I had
long
to
were
go
you in
to
jail?
a mediator. 72 hours.
No, that is untrue.
My bail was $15,000. I was in there with hookers and prostitutes that could have got out for $150. Mine would have been $1,500.
Miss Thomas, had you ever been arrested before?
No. I was taken to the police station one time for police disturbance when I was like 18 or 19.
You also say in your complaint that the defendant wrote letters to your husband.
Yes.
While he was away at sea.
I have it right here.
I'd like to see those letters, please.
you want to see the one to my housing manager?
Yes, I want to see
This
all
is the one to my housing manager. It's signed concerned citizen, but you can tell the handwriting matches it perfectly.
Can I see them?
Every thing you can imagine she wrote about me.
Excuse me. If she is so nice and innocent, then why do my children fear her? The same day that she assaulted me, my son is coming home from school. She pulls up to him as he's crossing the street from the school, and she tells him that if you don't get out of the street, she's gonna run him over, an 11-year-old boy.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You are full of baloney, because if you had injuries in pictures, you would have brought them.
And later today,
I think at the time he had something for me or an infatuation for me, and he thought he could get on the good side of me by posting the $5,000 bill.
Well, that was nice.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Georgina Thomas says her former friend, Carolyn Eclavia, had her falsely arrested after an argument over a car.
Right now, all I have is her complaint. Put it down. I'm speaking. I have her complaint. In her complaint, she mentioned several things. You want to sue her? If you think you have a cause of action,
no, I didn't
file a complaint. I'm asking you, did you write to her husband, Ron?
Her husband had asked me time and time again.
Yes
I
or
did
no?
write him.
Good.
Yes,
and this
he
is
wanted to know if she was having an affair.
Hey, you pay attention to me. You wrote her husband. Did you write to her husband before or after this incident involving the police?
Afterwards.
How long had you known her husband?
I've known him before I met her.
So you felt compelled to say that his wife was cheating on him as a boyfriend?
Yes, he had asked me time and time again whether she was having an affair. And yes, I did write, and I did tell her, because the boyfriend was coming to the house where I babysit, where I live, harassing my sons.
It's not true.
Yes, it is true.
Just a second. All of this didn't seem to bother you when you bought her car.
Because
you
I
bought
did not buy it. I don't even drive.
Listen to me. All these things, the boyfriend, who was, according to you, when you wrote this letter to the landlord, a convicted felon, she sells pounds of weed and cocaine out of her house. All of these things didn't bother you when she sold you the car a few weeks before this incident occurred. How come all these things just bothered you after the car incident?
Because the harassment didn't start until after she had the problem with my husband. To me, it was her business. I have no right to judge her. But when she started harassing me, harassing my children, and assaulting me, then yes, I believe.
Then all of a sudden, just a minute, then all of a sudden you decided that her husband had to know, the landlord had to know about all these charges after that. But before it was okay.
I did call the DA that had pressed charges time and time again.
Just a second.
And no one would come because I could not afford the restraining order against her.
You don't have to afford a restraining order, madam. All you have to do is go to court. And if you have a case, you can get a restraining order. Don't give me a lot of baloney. Instead of using the court system, what you did was you wrote letters designed to make trouble for her.
Thank you.
That's what you did. And calling the police, because I don't believe she threw her cat at you.
Oh, that is
Oh, no, I don't believe it. Because I believe, madam, if she threw her cat at you, you are organized enough, based upon these letters, to have developed the photographs, which you say you have at home. When you knew you were coming to court today to show me the injuries, you are organized enough to do that. So I don't believe that there were any injuries. I believe that she did
then
probably...
why would the district attorney look at him on my arms, on my back, and decide that he would press charges at her? If there was nothing wrong, why would he take her to jail?
You are full of baloney, because if you had injuries in pictures, you would have brought them. Now, the only issue is, what kind of damages am I going to assess against you? Because I believe that you are a nasty, vindictive person.
Can I explain
That's what I believe. You are a nasty, vindictive person. And I believe that she's entitled to be compensated. Now, the truth is, you threw down this item at her.
I'm kidding.
Okay?
Not at her on the ground.
Whatever, Miss Thomas. You were angry. Very angry. And you probably did say something like you're going to be back because you probably got into a major altercation with her. I don't believe that she had the right, really, at that point, because she was not, in fact, injured by you, to call the police. But I believe that there is more of a vindictiveness involved here than anything else. As a result of that letter that she wrote to your husband, did anything happen?
We're now getting divorced, yes.
Well, it wasn't just because of this letter, is that right?
No, we were having small problems at first, but nothing like this.
Okay. I'm not going to ask you whether you had a boyfriend or not. It's really none of my business. The letter was written maliciously, and the letter to the landlord was also written maliciously. That is Army Housing. I'm awarding you $2,500, and that's against you. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. Thank you, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Back to your right, please.
I've taken her food. They had no food, anything. I was a good friend to her. I took her to buy the dress she has on now because she doesn't drive.
Oh,
I did everything for her. The only thing I have to say is, from now on, if your big sister warns you about somebody, you should listen to it. She's just jealous. She's very jealous because I get all the attention and she gets none.
And now the next case.
Parties on Crawford versus Sullivan. Step forward, please.
30-year-old personnel director John Crawford says he bailed his friend Shannon Sullivan out of jail and he won't pay him back. Shannon claims he never asked John for his help.
You were arrested for assault. He posted bail.
That's correct.
You won't pay him the money for the bail that he posted for you.
That's correct.
Well, let us start with you, sir.
Okay.
Because I found your response, quite frankly, slightly ungrateful. Now, when were you arrested?
On the 24th of November.
What were you arrested for?
Assault.
Don't look down there. You probably don't need it, because
Actually,
I'm sure
okay.
you can tell me exactly.
It was the 28th of November.
And you were arrested for assaulting whom?
Somebody at a nightclub.
Were you drunk?
Nope.
So that wasn't an excuse.
No.
You just didn't like them.
No, that wasn't the fact either. I was pulling out of the driveway at the nightclub, and this particular individual walked up to my car and kicked it, a brand new car. Myself and another friend got out of the vehicle and walked up to him, and he started a confrontation. I went back to get in the vehicle, and he came in the vehicle after me. He was on top of me inside the vehicle. The police were sitting out front, and they all swarmed in, and they seen it happen.
Well, that sounds like he assaulted you, so why do you think you were arrested?
Because of the injuries on him.
Which were, I assume, substantial?
Yes.
Were you convicted of that assault,
No,
ultimately?
I wasn't.
Did you go to
case
trial?
was dismissed.
Now, when you were arrested, you were taken to jail,
Yes.
and bail was fixed?
Actually, I was going in for my OR hearing,
What's an OR hearing?
release on my own recognizance.
But you spent the night in jail.
No, I didn't.
You spent any time in jail?
Yes,
Is the reason that you were released from jail because this gentleman posted bail?
that's correct.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Forget the bail. Why didn't you say that?
Well, I didn't think about it at the time in the bill.
Well, you should have thought about it at the time, Mr. Sullivan.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 30-year-old personnel director John Crawford says he bailed his friend Shannon Sullivan out of jail and he won't pay him back. Shannon claims he never asked John for his help.
How long did you know him before you posted this bail?
Not very long, just a couple of weeks.
And would you tell me how it came about that you posted the bail for him?
I happened to be walking out of the nightclub right as this incident started, and I witnessed it. And I saw the police take him away. I received a phone call at early hours in the morning from the friend that was with him, and he said, Shannon is in jail. He wanted me to call you, tell you that he's in jail. This friend said that he told Shannon he could not get him out of jail, and wanted to know if I could do anything to help get him out. He said that Shannon would try to get a hold of me later, which he did. He was able to call me from a desk sergeant's phone.
So he called you from a desk sergeant's phone, and what did he say when he called?
He gave me all the specific information, the case number, told me what he was booked on, told me how much the bail was. I immediately called a bail bondsman. I didn't even think twice about calling a bail bondsman. Even though we weren't really good friends, I just felt sorry for him. I didn't want anyone to have to spend Thanksgiving Day in jail when he was planning on going to see his family in Arizona the next day. So I placed bail for him. And
how much did that cost you?
Well, bail was $5,000. They charged 20% of that for fees, and then there's filing fees, so it was $760.
And did you have a discussion with him about paying you back?
He wrote me a thank you note, said, I can't believe you did that for me. Don't worry, I won't let you down. I felt sorry for him because he said that he needed money, and I actually knew of some work that was opening up where I work, and so I gave his name to some people at work. He was hired at work, worked there just a short time, and after he stopped working where I work, he stopped returning all phone calls. I tried calling several times.
All right, Mr. Crawford. Now, Mr. Sullivan, $760 is what this gentleman spent on your behalf. Now, you want to try to explain to me why you don't think you owe him this money.
First of all, I knew I was going to an OR hearing and I was going to be released, okay? When I went up to the judge for my OR hearing, she said that you were just released on a $5,000 bond. I did not know who did. I didn't contact anybody. I never contacted my family or anything. Nobody even knew about it except for Paul, which was my friend. I never requested John to bail me out whatsoever. John did it on his own. That was his own thing. He did it.
Yeah, I'd spend that much money just to be nice.
Okay.
So why didn't you just tell the judge,
first,
I'm not accepting this bail, and I'm prepared to hear whatever you have to say, and I'll plead my own case to be released on my own recognizance without any consideration of this bail, so forget the bail. Why didn't you say that?
Well, I didn't think about it at the time in the bail.
Well, you should have thought about it at the time, Mr. Sullivan. You were more than happy at the moment to say, thank you very much. Where's my hat?
Bye-bye.
He wasn't arrested. You were arrested. Sounds to me like he was a nice guy.
Yeah, he's a nice guy for doing that. But I think there's more to it than just being a nice guy also.
Like
I think
what?
at the time he had something for me or an infatuation for me, and he thought he could get on the good side of me by posting the $5,000 bail.
Well, that was nice.
Yeah, it was too nice, actually.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
You had an option, sir. Your option was to say to the judge, who posted the bail for me? Question. Answer, Mr. Crawford. Mr. Crawford.
I did ask that.
You did ask.
They did not have that at the time because the bondsman had not delivered everything over to the court.
Well, if the bondsman hadn't delivered everything over, Mr. Sullivan, they wouldn't have released you.
That's what I was told.
They
I didn't
wouldn't
get out
have
till 2
released
hours
you if
later.
the bondsman had not delivered all the paperwork. I've been around long enough to know that.
Okay. Well, I'm just telling you.
All right, this is not a very difficult case. You owe him $760.
Okay.
Period. End of discussion. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Like I said in there, I just didn't want anyone to have to spend Thanksgiving in prison. I felt sorry for him, and I trusted him, and I thought I'd get my money back immediately, and it's taken 9 months to do it.
I don't felt I owed it to him. I didn't request for him to do it. He did it on his own will, and there's reasons why he did it.
Parties on Campbell versus Nalepsky. Step forward, please.
21-year-old Robert Campbell says during a night of drinking and partying, his former friend, Augie Nalepsky, broke the passenger window in his van.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 317 on the calendar in the matter of Campbell versus Nalepsky. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat.
You allege, sir, that the defendant kicked a window out of the back of your truck or car. Is that right?
Yeah.
And it cost you a couple $100 to have it fixed.
Yes, it did.
Why don't you tell me how that happened?
Well, first we started off at my friend's house, and we were going to go to the club that night.
Who's we?
Aggie, the defendant, and I, and Patty. We decided to go to the club, and she started off by drinking
Who's she?
The defendant, a Boone's Hill farm.
What is that?
I don't know, Strawberry Boone's Hill.
Wine.
It's a wine. And then after that, we got in the car, and we drove to Club X, which is in the city, about 45 minutes away. And we got there, and the defendant, started drinking. She drank a cranberry and vodka when we got there. And then we went out and started dancing, Patty and I, and Aggie was there drinking. The defendant was there drinking, standing there. After that, we went back after we stopped dancing, and we came over, and Aggie said she wanted to leave. And I asked her why. And she said, I just want to leave. So I told her, you know, I was like, if I buy you another drink, you're going to stay? And so I gave her some money, and she went and bought a Hurricane.
What's a Hurricane? It's
mixed with like 5 or 6 different drinks. Like, it's mixed with gin, 151.
What's 150?
Rum.
And after that, me and Patty went back to dance again, and Aggie went and sat down and started talking to this guy. And I guess she was drinking then, too. She drank a beer, so I don't know what else she drank, because I wasn't there. I was out there dancing, but I saw her drink a beer. And then after that, after about 20 minutes, we stopped dancing. We came out, and we seen that she was just sitting there. And so after that, we just left. We all left. We got in my car, and we started...
The 3 of you?
The 3 of us got in the car. I helped her to the car, actually. And when we were driving on the freeway, she says she's hot. So me and Patty, the witness, rolled down the windows, and she was still hot. So she was trying to open the back window.
What kind of car do you have?
It's an Astro van. I have a picture of
So it has a back pole window?
It has a side window. And then she proceeds to put her feet on the window to try to open it. And I'm asking the defendant, what is she doing? And by this point, she's pressing on the window very, very hard. And I look back, and as she's doing that, pressing on the window with her feet, like bench pressing it, it breaks. And I went like this, and it was a loud sound, a very loud sound. And I'm all, Aggie, what did you do? And then after that, we drove back to Concord, and as on the way, there was glass all in the car. And I told Aggie more than, I'd say, 6 times to get out of the glass and stop playing with it, because she was playing with it with her hands. That's how intoxicated she was. And I told her to get out of the glass, and she passed out on the seat. So when we got back to Concord, she was telling me, I'm sorry. And I didn't yell, I didn't do anything, because I do that to some people, but we were best friends. So I didn't really understand why she did it, because there was no reason for her to do it.
She did it, according to you, because she was drunk.
Yeah.
So you don't have to understand what happened. Mm-hmm. According to what the menu of alcohol that she imbibed during the course of that evening, she didn't know whether she was in the back of your car or in the Concorde. Mm-hmm. So how much did this window cost you?
$206, and here's the receipt right here.
All right, Aggie, let's hear your end of it.
Well, Your Honor, just to put it blatantly, he did not see me do it. She did not see me do it. They did not hear me kick the window open. As far as I'm concerned, when the window shattered inside of the car, like he said, when you kick out a window, where does the glass go? It goes outside. There was bits of pieces of...
Let's start out with the Hurricane.
Sure. Not a problem.
How old are you?
21. At least I was the only one that was 21 drinking.
Yes, I didn't know.
21?
Mm-hmm.
You know how stupid women look when they get drunk?
Sure.
Do you have any idea of who are you?
I'm her mother.
Well, I'm sure your mother has told you. If she hasn't, she should have. You know, there's nothing more disgusting than a sloppy woman drunk. Sometimes I think sloppier than a man, but maybe that's just because I'm a woman. And if you're 21 years old, and you have therefore a license to drink, doesn't mean you have to make a fool of yourself. Now, you were pretty sick. I read your papers.
I mean, you felt pretty uncomfortable that evening after you had had so much to drink. Why did you drink until you felt sick?
Why?
Why?
We were all drinking.
I didn't ask a... Listen, I don't care about them.
Okay.
Why did you drink?
Why did I drink?
Until you got...
I didn't get
blotto.
sick. I didn't get sick. I did not get sick. We were drinking through the whole... We started drinking earlier when we went to Patty's house. We had a shot of E&J. Then we proceeded to go to another party.
I was not at Patty's house.
And then, well, no, you weren't there, but we drove to your house. And then we went to another
You
party.
weren't
Now
even
sit
at
here
my
and
house.
tell me there were so many people there.
I did not feel too well at the time. That's what you wrote in your answer.
That's right. I didn't feel well, but that doesn't mean that I was to the point where I would kick out somebody's window, causing no scrapes or anything on my leg.
All right.
There was no cause for me to do that. I tried to open the window, but there was no way I could open it because this window was off track in the first place.
It was not off track.
I had my legs propped up.
Next
to the window. Next to the window. So I could be more comfortable. The next thing I recall is glass shattering, flying inside the car. Let me see the bill. Were you there when your daughter got home?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was.
Now step up here. Tell me your name.
Danuta.
Does your daughter come home intoxicated often?
No.
But this isn't the first time.
Not first.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
You know, when you're 21 years old, you're dumb and you do things that are stupid with alcohol. I don't know why people do that when they're young.
And later today,
You seem like a nice person. How a nice person can keep tasting their own foot, I'll never understand.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robert Campbell claims his former friend Augie Nalepsky was highly intoxicated when she broke the window in his van and wants her to pay for it. Augie denies breaking the window.
Aggie, you're going to do what you want to do. You know, when you're 21 years old, you're dumb and you do things that are stupid with alcohol. I don't know why people do that when they're young. But I'm going to tell you this. Aside from looking terrible when you're 21 years old or when you're 20 years old or when you're 51 years old and you've had too much to drink, you were lucky this time that all you caused was a little damage to his car. I'm not going to play Sherlock Holmes. You're in that car. You're in the back of the car. You got your legs propped up against the glass. You're drunk. The window shatters. I don't need proof beyond a reasonable doubt that you're the one who caused it. All I need here is some evidence, more than not, that you caused the damage to the car. And I find that you did. So you owe him $206. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Thank you.
All right, this is our excuse. You may step out.
No problem.
You have the back door to your right.
And now the next case.
Party's on Floyd versus Kleiman. Step forward, please.
Disc jockey Michael Floyd says party planner Denny Plyman stole his watch and broke their agreement for Michael to DJ at a gay disco.
Mr. Floyd, you're a DJ.
Yes, ma'am.
You do that full-time, sir?
No, ma'am.
What do you do full-time?
I'm an office manager.
But Saturday nights or Sunday, you go and operate one of those machines that you have at parties and play music.
Sometimes Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay. Mr. Plyman, you, sir, are a party planner.
That's correct.
And according to your complaint, sir, you are suing the defendant for breach of contract. You say that you had a contract to perform your services as a DJ for him, and he canceled that contract. So tell me about it.
Yes, ma'am. We had an agreement to do, I was the head DJ. There would be one other DJ.
Incorrect.
Mr. Plyman, let's understand the ground rules.
Okay.
He talks, then you talk.
All right.
Then I decide. Go.
I was the head DJ. That's what we had decided. We had sat down while he was planning this event. It was called Detour at this other club, and there was another DJ who would DJ on the one Sunday a month that I would not make it. And we had
That's incorrect. He only DJ'd the first 4 out of 12 detours, so he wasn't DJing 3 out of 4 weeks.
Mr. Plyman, what word didn't you understand that I said before?
All right.
He talks, then you talk, then I decide. So don't interrupt again.
All right.
Good. How many, what's the word, gig?
Gig.
That would be a good name.
That would be good?
Yeah.
We're in agreement.
My children would be proud of me.
We're in agreement there.
How many gigs do you claim you contracted for with the defendant?
May I look? I have a list of them. I don't know them off. There were so many. It was over like a 5-month period.
Well, you're not suing for the whole 5 months.
I'm suing for the ones that were canceled.
How many did you actually perform?
I think it was about a month or 2.
4.
He has a problem. He really doesn't understand. I'm not going to penalize him because there must be a screw loose or something.
I agree.
Well, I've got the exact figure. It's 4. It's a very simple question.
You'll tell me that in a minute, but right now, you see, I was focused on him, Mr. Plyman. Mr. Floyd, do you have a written contract with him?
No, ma'am, we don't.
Well, if you were going to have an employment contract that went beyond, say, a month or 2, it would seem to me that if you are in this business as a profession, even if it's a part-time profession, that you have something in writing. Wouldn't that sound right to you?
Yes, ma'am. Normally I do.
Yes.
But Denny was my best friend, and I was helping him get a business started.
Right.
And I didn't feel that I needed that, but I do have from my date book that he and I sat down and booked these dates.
Yes.
So that's the only actual evidence that I have, and I'm just hoping that he will feel the need to tell the truth.
Well, when you sat down and booked the events with him, what kind of parties were these, by the way, that you were booking?
They're tea dances, which is a dance on Sunday afternoon. It's disco music. We do it at a country western bar, but once a week we do a regular disco fun music, not country music.
And it's called a tea dance?
It's called a tea dance. It's on Sunday afternoons. It
No
starts
booze?
at 5 o'clock. No, yeah,
No.
there's plenty of booze.
Oh, so why do they call it a tea dance?
That's the name for the booze.
I can tell you why.
Yes.
It goes back a long time, about 20 years ago. People used to get together on a Sunday, and they would dish other people, or tell the tea. Gossip. And that's where it
that
goes.
I understand.
Right.
That's where...
Okay.
After they've been to the
name-
beach all day, or who was with whoever the night before, and
Okay, I
things
got
along
you.
that
So
line.
they
That's
call
where
it-
the name the tea dance came from, and it escalated into where they'd have a DJ, and there'd be dancing, and people would have be having fun.
Sounds like fun.
It is.
Now, you were running these things, so you were like a promoter.
That's correct. It's my production.
And I assume that you will agree, Mr. Plyman, that at the beginning, when you set up this process, you did in fact sit down with Mr. Floyd. You were good friends.
We were.
And say, we're going to do these for 6 months,
That's right.
and these are the Sundays. Is that right?
That's correct. And it's one thing that's important to show is he's been paid for every service that he has performed.
I don't think that he's questioning that.
Okay.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
You
no
were
question.
paid each time that you went.
Exactly.
How much were you paid, by the way?
Sometimes was $200, sometimes $230, sometimes $220.
Well, actually, that's the only thing we do have an agreement on. We sat down and did make a written agreement on that, and what we paid him was $235, and I've got a copy of that.
Can I see that, please?
What that included was his services, and then I paid for him to take the Amtrak down to San Diego and back, and then I either paid for his lodging or he stayed at my home.
Now, is this a writing that you entered into? Just take a look at it.
That would be our agreement that we based on what we said. One of the other things that's important is he said in his opening that he was the head DJ. That's in his mind.
Would you look at that, sir? I asked you a question. Mr. Plyman doesn't know where he is. I'm going to remind him of that in a minute.
No, ma'am. This is not.
Michael,
Just
this
a
was
second.
made up
Mr.
afterwards,
Plyman,
obviously.
you never saw that before?
No.
That's a lie. We agreed to that.
Well,
that was
just
your
a second.
payment.
Mr. Plyman, if you talk to him again, sir, I'm going to end this lawsuit. And so far you're winning, but you're coming so close to losing because you don't know when to shut up that it's really very sad, because a trial is supposed to be a search for the truth. When a litigant who seems to be winning keeps shooting himself in the foot and yet appears to be an intelligent man, I don't understand that.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Mr. Plyman, I'm going to give you some really good advice, sir. When you try to take over Judge's playpen, you're always going to lose.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. DJ Michael Floyd says party planner Denny Plyman broke their agreement for Michael to DJ at a gay disco. Denny claims he had every right to fire Michael and owes him nothing.
Mr. Plyman, one of the problems with this, sir, is I'm going to tell you what that is. I'm not going to consider it. He says he's never seen it before. And if, in fact, this was your agreement and you're a businessman, what you should have done was you sign it and have him sign it.
I understand that.
But, Mr. Floyd, do you have any proof of any engagements that you actually turned down at or about the time that your agreement, not contract, but agreement with the defendant was terminated?
Do I have any proof?
Yes.
Not with me, Your Honor. I had turned down San Diego Gay Pride because he told me that I was going to work for him for 2 events that he was doing. He was doing 4, I think, and I was going to do 2 of them.
I had offered, when we first had our disagreement, he brought up the idea that, you know, as somewhat of a severance pay, that I pay him $200 to afford him like 2 weeks down the road. He had a date. And me being a new businessman, a small businessman, I thought, you know what, I really want to do the right thing here. So I thought about it a couple days, and then I called him back, and I said, you know, I would be happy to send you that $200, but I asked one thing. I said, I'm going to need you to sign an agreement. I finally clicked in and understood that I probably should have an agreement at this point in time, that this will be the end of our, I put the payment of $200 in 2 $200 increments will be paid by May 31st and is provided as a goodwill gesture by Denny Plyman, owner of Focus Events. This payment will finalize our working relationship and any monies due of this date. And it's at that point that he got all pissed off, like I didn't trust him because I felt like he would take me to court or something, and he wouldn't sign that. Now, he never saw this, but I read it to him over the phone because I was going to send it to him, have him sign it, and send it back to me, and then I would have sent him the money.
That's also not entirely true, Your Honor.
Well, not entirely true, but did you call and discuss with him some sort of solution to this problem?
I attempted, he never did. I attempted on several occasions to call him at that point.
How you could say I didn't attempt to make a solution is incredible. I have it written right here.
That's not proof. That could have been written at any time.
Mr. Floyd, he did in fact offer you a couple of $100s to resolve this issue.
Yes,
and
at
he
his
did
suggestion.
And he did. You seem like a nice person. How a nice person can keep tasting their own foot, I'll never understand. I'll never understand.
This is an indication of our relationship through the whole time. It was
Mr.
anytime
Floyd,
I tried to
then
put
it's
something
then
in.
that's your problem, sir. I mean, you know, you chose to work for him.
I'm one of the top DJs in Southern California.
How could you be a top DJ in Southern California, Mr. Floyd?
I'm sorry?
In his own mind, Your Honor.
Oh, Mr. Plyman, I tried to be very nice to you, sir. The truth of the matter is, you're your own worst enemy.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
He's suing you for $2,500? Is that what you're suing him for?
Yes, ma'am.
$2,500? I was originally going to give you nothing. He helped me. I'm going to give you $1,000. That takes care of 5 weeks' worth of work.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Do you understand? That's all.
Party's excused. You may step out.